Hello and welcome to another big edition of Layback with Betfair. Group 1 racing returns to Victoria this weekend in the form of the Memsie Stakes. Are you going to be with Brightside or Jenni? We'll find out as this show goes on. The two men that are going to cast their eye over the card, and in Sydney as well, as Trav Noonan and Reece Goodwin. Trav, great to have you part of the show.
Yeah, good to be on. Thanks, Nick, and thanks to the team. Nice to be filling someone's seat for warming it up for someone else. But looking forward to a massive weekend of race.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, and you'll be speaking far more sense than Tom Haylock, who usually occupies that seat, which I'm very excited about. And well, the return of the king, or the prince, I should say, the Prince of Pakenham, Reece Goodwin, back for his first of the season.
Yeah,
hey, Reece.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, good to be back. It's a little bit odd without Tom here. He's off? What's he on, a cruise or something?
Well, we'll get to that in the lay-bin, actually, which we're about
material
to sort of step into in a moment. But no runners today. We've brought the Nursery of Champions into the studio. So we've got racing at Bendigo today, but we've got the real champion here in Reece Goodwin, which is terrific. And that's probably a nice segue into the lay-bin, which is our kick-off part of the show. And Trav, I want to throw the new ball to you for the lay-bin today, because bit of fresh blood. I reckon you've got the long run sorted, probably wiping the hand on the sight screen, ready to unleash.
Well, I thought about this on the way in, the lay-bin, and as a positive person, Nick, it's pretty hard to come up with something negative. So I had to really scan the brain for something that's annoyed me. Last couple of months, I've attended a few movies. Not a bad date option, the movies. So,
okay. This is just a little humble backboard as well from Trav, going all right in that area.
I'm better than usual anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. So I just reckon the Hoyt's Choc Top has completely dropped in form. So I remember going, a few years ago.
This is an institution race.
And whatever the supply was for the Choc Top was a lot better than what it is now. So you pulled it out of the freezer and the cone was soggy. Ice cream just completely melted. It was an absolute disaster.
And we want answers.
And went all over the jumper because of the chocolate being, just melted. It was
and then she walked out.
No good. Lucky she stayed, actually. So she's hanging around for now. So that's the positive. But the negative is the Hoyt's Choc Top. Every other cinema, I reckon, does the Choc Top better than Hoyt's.
I'm going to keep an eye out for this now. It looks like no one's safe from this economical climate either. If the Hoyt's Choc Top's copping it, they are really... everywhere's cost-cutting. Tell you who's not cost-cutting. This is a lay-bin, and you're filling this chair with positivity today, a man that usually fills it with about 38 lay-bins, so I'm actually getting a chance to talk in this segment, is the HMAS Haylock. And I call him the HMAS Haylock because he's currently on a cruise around Malta. So I would have thought, with the first Group 1 of the season kicking off in Victoria, and your profession is based around the great game, that you might want to be available. So, you've endured the winter months. He's probably had his feet up on the table in the Betfair offices. We finally get to the good stuff, and the HMAS Haylock takes off from Malta for 7 days. He's been bragging about free food and free beverage in the layback group chat. So, Tommy Haylock, hop in the bin, mate.
I can pile in here. He messaged me a few weeks ago and said, where's our filly going? Lovely cut this is. He said, she's not running Caulfield Guineas Day, is she? I said, no, I don't plan to. He goes, good, I've got a wedding that day. I said, mate, it's all about you. You've got dead set a bit of its tail. You think we're not going to run a Caulfield Guineas Day because you can't be there?
We'll map out an entire preparation based on your social life. This is extraordinary. But again, not surprising from a guy who last week, if you caught the show, put an out of office and calendar on every employee's
I did read
outlook, on in at work there at Betfair. So good lay-bins to kick off, boys. But let's get into the racing, because it is a super day of racing. Obviously, with that Group 1 headlining the 9 race program there at Caulfield, in form of the Group 1 Memsie Stakes. And we see a couple of heavy hitters back at the races in Pride of Jenni and Mr. Brightside, and we'll cover all that as we go through the show. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about the track conditions. Trav, I might throw to you. We've had a bit of yuck weather, but some good drying weather in that as well, because we know the races were called off at Sandown yesterday. How do you expect Caulfield to play?
Yeah, so back in the true position for Caulfield on Saturday. I thought it played pretty good 2 weeks ago on Lawrence Day, so couldn't complain with how the track was then. little bit of rain around Friday. I think worst case, you're probably on a soft 5. Can't imagine it'd be much worse than that. So that really gives every horse their chance, doesn't it, Reece? Given soft 5.
Absolutely.
This time of year, most horses would be well and truly accustomed.
And I think a little bit of natural rain is what's best for it. I mean, if they missed the rain and they were a bit concerned, they had to put water on it themselves. That can sort of can cause biases. But I think if we got a bit of drop of rain Friday afternoon, something like that, that'd probably just have it in the prime spot for Saturday.
I'm all for natural irrigation, just not through the day. I know we had 3
Yeah,
Caulfield
exactly.
meetings in a row where we had rain deteriorating track throughout the day, and it makes it mighty hard for punters with big gaps back through the field.
They'd cop criticism for it, but there's nothing worse for any track in Australia for there to be rain while there's hundreds of horses going across it. I think they've done a good job. They bounced back. As Trav said, it played really well 2 weeks ago, and I'm sure it will Sunday.
Let's kick off, boys. Race 5, the Group 3 Valet Black Caviar. It's also known as the Heath, I believe, this race. As Fora won last year at $2.50 before going on to win second, before running second in the Moya and winning the Group 2 Scalacci as well at the next 2 starts. We know what happened after that. Do we have an Asfora type in this field, Trav?
I don't know. Well, the Train of Lightning is a Group 1 winner of the TJ Smith Stakes, and then you've got Arkansas Kid, who's come back after the gelding and looked pretty good in the Regal Roller. So it's a hot field. Good field. Really interested to see what the market does. So you've got 4 horses under $6 at the moment. So when we get closer down to that 105% on Betfair late, something's going to have to drift. Personally, I think that'll be Chain of Lightning. I know she's a Group 1 winner, but she doesn't have a very strong starting price profile. She's a bit of an opportunist too. Like her big wins are in races where a lot of other horses fail. So I think the market will be against her on Saturday. I think she's probably the one that'll drift.
Is she better on more rain-affected going as well?
Yeah, definitely. She does have some wins on good tracks though, and she's a pretty good mare overall.
Just to add to that, if they happen to not get any rain and it was quite firm Saturday, I think they'll pull her out. They're going to be very particular about what they run her on because she isn't the soundest horse and she has a few little niggles. So there's a chance she doesn't go around, and that could obviously change the market a fair bit as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely would, because then you've got the 3 sort of chances under $5. Speed map's going to be important. Acromantula has been bombing the start of late. He's become a real pest in the races he's been in. So difference to 1100 Caulfield and 1,000 metres Moonee Valley, though, is if he does bomb it here, he's got a little bit more time to actually build up the revs.
I spoke to Dan Pearce on Melbourne Radio last week, and he sort of spoke about how this horse as well is quite one-dimensional. So I'd imagine on the 7-day backup, jumping clean, they're only going to want to go one way, and that's straight to the top. So a little bit of how much tempo in the early stages is going to be on how cleanly Acromantula gets away.
Yeah, 100%. I personally don't think they'll go too hard here. They'll turn this into more a dash home over the last 400 metres. And I think the horse most suited under that scenario is probably Kalos. He's a horse with a booming turn of foot. So we saw that first up last campaign in the Rubiton, same track distance, and he was huge from the tail of the field. And then he didn't have a lot of luck in the Oakley Plate, didn't have a lot of luck in the Galaxy, and I think he can wipe his last start where they changed a few things with his gear. I think they had the glue-on shoes on, and now they've gone off. As a trainer, Reece, that's a huge positive.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? So just means that he's in the zone, and his 2 trials were really good. I think he's trialling as good as ever. So I'm happy to be with Kalos in the Heath.
Yeah, I'm strongly with him too. I mean, we only have to wind back to first up last prep, and he beat Ashfura with 58.5, and then he was not far away in the Oakley Plate, where Recommendation actually beat him home, but that Oakley Plate was a very much an on-speed race, and Kalos was out the back. I think, I really like him. I was quite surprised he had a 4 in front of him. I'm going to lay Recommendation. Look, he can win, but I mean, I feel like he was primed earlier than most of the obviously the better sprinters. I think he was beautifully paced and obviously banked some prize money. I think this will nearly pull him up. I think he'll be highly competitive, but if he can win Saturday, but I don't think he'll win again after this because it'll just get too strong for him. I think he's sort of your second-tier sprinter. I just don't think it's going to be sort of set up as good for him. I'm banking on Acromantula jumping well. And setting a good clip because he generally only wins his races by going fast, I feel, and he's won around Moonee Valley. Interestingly enough, his first up run was on the 10th of this month, and then 10 days later he had a jump out at Pakenham where he didn't miss a start and flew along there. 4 days into his run at Moonee Valley where he missed the start, and now he's here again on a 7-day backup. So he's had plenty of racing, and I feel like they want to use his speed and his fitness to an advantage. I don't think the sit and sprint's going to suit him. So I'm banking on Kalos getting a nice tempo. He's just got to follow the right horses through. As I said, he was a bomb first up last prep from back in the field at this track and trip, beating Ashfura with a very similar weight. So I'm very much in Kalos's corner, and I'm going to lay recommendation.
I like your little hamburger with a lot straight off the bat too. You've come in at swinging. Usually takes a few races to warm up, this Reece Goodwin. Mate, I'm following on in a similar setup, I feel, as you, but I'm going the outsider of the field in Antino for Tony Gollan. I think it's going to set up nice, the race for him. And he's a genuine winning chance on best form. Looks well over the odds. Last start winner at the Sunny Coast, that was on heavy going, but has been kept fresh. Tick over jump out at Cranbourne, where he was only just shaded by recommendation. Yep. Mark Zara goes on. I think we'll be camped off a good tempo and trucking into it late. So Natuno around $18. I'm more than happy to play.
Zara rode him in that jump out too, so he obviously was happy enough with what he felt to stick with him and ride him here. So he's probably nice price, really, isn't he?
Yeah, and behind him on that day was Golden Boom, who of course ran really well last week. So
we know that Gollan Queensland form can stack up in Melbourne too.
So can we all agree a little bit that recommendation sort of 2.1, 2.2 is a pretty short price?
Way too skinny.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. Hey, let's go to race number 6 now. It's the Group 3 McNeil Stakes for the 3-year-olds, 1,200 metres. The last two editions of the race have provided us with subsequent Group 1 winners in Jacquinot and V8. Do we see, I'd imagine Trav will be looking at probably some subsequent Group 1 winners out of this one too, perhaps?
Perhaps. I think there's one horse that could potentially go to Group 1 level out of the race. And yeah, I'm super keen to see him at the races on Saturday, and that's Growing Empire.
Mm-hmm.
He does have the blinkers off. He's had the 2 jump outs coming into this campaign. First one, he didn't wear the blinkers against Epimales, who's a very smart horse from the Busted and Young stable. Last one, he had the blinkers on, but both trials or jump outs, he's been a lot more controlled early. You go back to his 2-year-old campaign, and he's just one of these horses that matured with each start, but he got a lot of things wrong in those early starts. He was over racing bad, wanted to hang out. The jump outs, I know they're not everything because you're not under race pressure, but he just looks much more mature and just a lot more professional. I don't mind that they haven't put the blinkers on here. I think they're just backing in his class. You'll see him behind the pace, and I think he'll be one of the top 3-year-olds this season. And I think they're serving you up a good price. I'm going to drop it. I think he's a moral on Saturday.
A TB special.
No, this is a TN special because he's just rolled in and dropped the M word. In the second race we're previewing, Growing Empire, a moral for Trav Noonan. You heard it here on Layback. What about you, Reece?
Look,
you don't think it's a moral?
No, I definitely don't. I don't at all.
I like this head-to-head.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of this with Tom and I usually, so you fit the boots really well at the moment. Look, I'm going to stick with me local horse, Stay Focused. No doubt in my mind, without knowing for sure, he's obviously had a little setback. He didn't run a couple of weeks ago. He had a disappointing jump out. His second jump out was disappointing, and they've obviously gone back to the drawing boards, but his most recent one last Tuesday was very good, and he looked back to somewhere near his best. I really like the gear changes too, similar to Glowing Empire. There's a bit going on with gear changes. He's got crossover nerves band off and earmuffs off pre-race. So to me, that's told me that this horse has grown up and adapting really well, and they're confident to go into the races first up, thinking he's going to do everything right. He was obviously first home of the boys in the Blue Diamond, and he was terrific there. And he obviously loves Caulfield, good draw, Stackhouse in the saddle. I can see Growing Empire. I think they're the only 2 chances, Growing Empire and Stay Focused. But the 2 jump outs Trav speaks of, he got very, very warm in them, very warm on what would not be a very warm morning, I would feel. Interesting, the first jump out, he didn't have blinkers on. You could see he was a muck lather. Second one, he had blinkers on. He was still probably worse, a muck lather. So I think, I'm not convinced this horse is as straightforward as, as Trav said, jump outs are a guide, but they're not race day pressure. So I'm really keen to see, 1, how he parades, and then 2, how he goes around to the barriers, and then his manners first before I want to step into him. I'm not convinced he's the full package yet, and I'm not brave enough to make him a lay because obviously undoubtedly he's got massive talent, but I think these are the 2, and I reckon I'd rather stick with the one I think is more bomb-proof and Stay Focused. All
right, head-to-head the boys. I'm just going to throw a little cat amongst the pigeons here and go for a third option. Option C.
Surely we find one.
I think Growing Empire is going to be the best horse out of the race. I think Stay Focused is going to be a better horse than my tip out of the race. But I'm starting with number 6, Wonder Boy. I just feel this is the time of year where you can catch a few of the better ones on the hop. I think the stable will be taking their time with these horses like Growing Empire, as well as Stay Focused, because they've just got bigger fish to fry as deeper into their preparation. I like the way that Wonder Boy finished off last start. Up to 1200 is a really big tick. He'll be, again, the beneficiary of what might be a strong tempo camped off. And gee, am I going that similar vein to the first race? But I think can finish over the top. And I'm happy to play Wonder Boy at an each way price. So Wonder Boy each way for me, Growing Empire, a moral for Trav, and Stay Focused for Reece. If we don't find it there, we may as well turn this table upside down and go home. That's the gut feel. But good luck, fellas. Let's go to race 7 now. It's the Group 3 Cockram Stakes for the mares. Set weights and penalties, 1200 metres. It's a good horses race the last 3 years. Probabile, Chain of Lightning, Benedetta are the 3 previous winners. And I found this a pretty tough race, boys, and I went hunting for a little bit of value. I'm not sure about you, Trav.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good race to play the BSP, Betfair starting price. You'll get probably best odds because this will be sort of $6 the field, I'd reckon, come jump time. I know Expressiveness is a bit tighter than that now, but yeah, I'd say the market's going to come for a few of these because it's so open.
We'll get to draw a line a little bit through Expressiveness with just how Arkansas Kid goes earlier in the day, perhaps, as well.
Yep, that Regal Roller, Arkansas Kid was really good winning it, but he had the absolute perfect run. They went incredibly slow, turned into a dash home. They held their spot. I'm not convinced it's a race you want to hold too much weight to the form on. And yeah, if she started sort of lower than $4, I'd lay Expressiveness here. I think she's too skinny off a race where you didn't actually learn too much about her talent. So this is incredibly hard. You could push anyone into about 7 horses, but
which one of the 7 are you going to play?
I've backed Comrade Rosa earlier in the week. I really like this mare first up. She's got a good fresh record. Mark Zahra in the saddle. Golan again, we've talked on him. Obviously only brings the guns down to Victoria, so his strike rate's going to be a bit better than some of the Victorian trainers who are running just average horses. But
I think she was just a float partner for Natuno, actually.
Is that
the
right?
rumour going around at layback anyway in the host chair.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But looking back through this girl, I don't think she had the best form through the Brisbane winter, but her last run wasn't bad in the Tats Tiara. She didn't finish too far off Ballini Patina, and more to the point, didn't finish far off the pack. And you go back through her best numbers, certainly good enough to win a race like this. Form around a horse like Lady Laguna at 1200 stands out. I just love the jump out at Cranbourne. Thought she went super. So Comrade Rosa for me, and the Adelaide horse Aviatress was the other one that interests me. Up to 1200, I think big tick. She'd been racing at 1,000 metres, probably too sharp for her. Beaten by Lingani on both occasions. You go back through her form last preparation, crossed the line with Right to Party, was 4 wide, no cover the trip in that Proud Miss. So gets a really nice run for Craig Williams. And again, the Jollies, they never come here for a haircut. So she'll run really well.
I've got a good barber, though, if the Jollies ever needed a good haircut in Melbourne, that's for sure.
It's looking nice.
Thanks, mate. I get it every week for layback. I cherish this video podcast that highly. Hey, Reece, you're going with a runner here for the Kennywell Yeoman stable.
Yeah, well, you speak about how open it is, and I love my my roughies, and I think she's a brilliant bet, Fortunate Kiss. She's only had the one run for Kennywell Yeoman, and she was brought for good money out of that broodmare sale. And I thought she was great up the straight. She ran second quickest last 600 of the race from a sort of an impossible spot the way it worked out. Maltai got a real easy time for Moody Coleman and Trumby Nolan. And, yeah, I thought she was great late. She's had a quiet jump out in between. Only little negative for me is Blake Shin trolled her, and he rides Cindy Falls here, but I got a feeling he might have been locked into the family's horse before Fortunate Kiss was going here. So, look, I think for a mare that it ran well first up for the stable, she's had a tick over jump out in between that was basically under lock and key. From gate 1, around 20s, I think you can do worse and have something each way on her, and what's a really tough race. And really keen to see how Skybird comes back. I think her trials have been great. I don't think you could back it from 16 because they'll probably ride her quiet, but I'd be really keen to see how hard she hits the line because I think she's back. And I think she's sort of a mare you could follow going forward.
Without going through her form, she hasn't had a lot of luck at the barrier draws,
No.
Skybird at all in her short promising career thus far. Guys, I'm playing pretty similar. I'm going wide. I'm siding with Road to Arataki, who was third in the race last year behind Benedetta and Parasol, has jumped out nicely at Terang for this first up assignment. Probably just didn't come up last prep.
Maddie Williams actually did say that on radio recently, that she just didn't seem to come up last prep at all.
Yeah, and look, she's shown tactical versatility throughout her career, which I really like. Drawn 8 here for Jamie Carr, and Jamie Carr's the key. She's 2 from 2 on Road to Arataki, and both times has gone straight to the top. So I envisage Jamie's going to be really positive with this mare, go forward, and I think that $19, $20 about her corporates at the moment is a pretty good price. It's good shopping. So Road to Arataki.
Could be in for a big trifecta.
Yeah, I'm just going to go straight out in order. Me on top, obviously. So Road to Arataki. For me, I'm going to 1x3. That's nice. Where I'm at with her in what looks a very competitive edition of the Cockram Stakes. Speaking of competitive, race 8 is another competitive race here. It's the listed Heatherlie Stakes, 1,700 metres. Solcombe was dynamic in last year's edition. Sprinted home at $20. Threw his hat in the ring for some of those major cups. Is anyone here going to do that, Trav?
Yeah, you don't really know. With a couple of these horses that are imports having their first run, so St George, Q Tempesta, they got good form overseas. You couldn't say they wouldn't necessarily make that grade.
You cast your eye over the Italian form.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't find a replay.
You've been waiting to say that.
No, just sharp as a tack.
Group 2 win in Italy. I don't know how that stacks up, but looking at the rating on Racing Post, this is a little trick. I do that for all the international horses. They usually update all the ratings. It's a little bit of a guide. I'm not saying it's completely accurate, but it's something. Considering getting international sort of figures is very hard. They had the horse going extremely well in that Italy Group 2. So he's obviously a horse of high class. His jump out was good, I thought, like ridden out to the beat a very sharp horse in Barrakill at Flemington.
Yep.
The knock, though, is he's first up for 321 days. This is a horse who's going to get over 2,400. There's no way there's any intent with how they're going to ride him. He'll probably be in the back half of the field. If you like him, I would definitely be backing him BSP. This horse will probably start $16.
I just want to ask you as well about Rise at Dawn, who's just, I'm calling Rise at Dawn Gentleman Roy Jr. He's just got some of those attributes, go forward, gutsy type. Comes up $4 here. Is it just a bit steep and a bit short? That's how I'm sort of sensing it. I'm not sure how you analysed his sort of placement in this race.
I think it's a good race for him because he's up and going and fit, and he can also lead. So he showed that at Flemington on a couple of occasions. He can make his own luck. That race the other day was an absolute walk, and he was handed the race. So I don't know if it's a true piece of form, and he's now anchored by his consistency.
I thought he was better served going faster. I thought they went too slow with him last start, to be honest.
That could be a point to that as well. Like maybe if they went faster, he beats them
by more
and looks way more impressive.
It's a bit more grindy. Sort of
that's probably a fair point. My little knock is just how deep he is in the prep. There's probably no improvement. If he holds his rating, he's obviously going to be very competitive, but I was just slightly around him. The horse I wanted to find was Banker's Choice coming out of the Lawrence. Love the way he sort of hit the line there the last 200. This horse second up last prep, ran third in the Toorak behind Antino and Attrition. He was one of the best closers. D-Lane on, big jockey booking for the stable. I reckon they've targeted him at this race, knowing that he's probably just below that Group 1 standard. You've got to pick your mark with him. I think he'll be here, then the naturalism, and maybe give him a chance in a Caulfield Cup on a lightweight. And I reckon he'll run a huge race there.
It's around $14 corporates at the moment, Banker's Choice. So a little bit of confidence there from Trav. What about you, Prince?
No bet from me. I found it a pretty tough race. I am really interested in Q Tempesta. Is that how we're saying it?
Yep. Good Italian.
Surely that can't be right.
That's what I'm calling it anyway.
He's the most worldly here, I'm sure you know.
Yeah. You should have seen me trying to get Enfonse out.
Yeah,
that time. One still. isn't it?
N. Francis. Yeah.
Anyway, look, I really like the intent. He's had 3 jump outs in the last one, as you mentioned, Trav. He was really ridden out and went with Barraquil. So, look, I wouldn't say he's too far off the mark. And as we know, when they come to Australia, we can get a bit more turn of foot and zip in their legs. So they definitely want to be seeing him run well, whether he's a strong winning chance. St. George, I watched the jump outs, and obviously he wants further, but
Kind of like I heard.
that's what I thought. He's opened up 34s and he's now 16s with no scratchings. And 40 minutes ago, there was 13. So there's been some market support. And I thought it would have been flat out winning at Yay Saturday, to be honest. So I don't know. It's just I was interested by the move there. And outside that, a competitive enough race. But yeah, I found it tough. I suppose Rise at Dawn, he's fit and he'll be on speed. I can see why he's in the market, but you can see that, he might not be up to these greater horses either. So Banker's Choice, probably a good find by you, Trav.
Yeah, I'm shouldering arms. I've got Rise at Dawn on top, but just a bit skinny, I think, in what looks a really open race with a bit of class about it. Let's go to the feature now, boys. Race number 9, the Group 1 Memsie Stakes, weight for age, 1,400 metres. Mr. Brightside was a punter's favourite last year, beating home Princess Grace. I Wish I Win Alligator Blood. How are you assessing this one?
Well, the speed map's going to be the key to the race. Does Gentleman Roy put the pressure to Pride of Jenni? I doubt it. I think they'll probably rather be in a slipstream. And I think their chance with Gentleman Roy is to try and ramp it up from the 800, not to go with her in the early stages and really put the acid test on her down the side. Where does Mr. Brightside get to? I don't think Willow will want to be too far away. I don't think you'll want to be out the back with Agon and Pinstriped. You'll be ahead of them.
I found it really interesting. Craig Williams interviewed throughout the week and spoke about Mr. Brightside, how he jumps better as he gets deeper into the prep and he's sort of slowly away and musters. So it's going to be the first sort of 200 metres of this race is just going to be really, really intriguing.
Really important. I think the key to the race is how they've jumped out, to be honest. Pride of Jenni's first up record, you go 7 starts, never won. So a lot of people just dismiss her on that. But first up last campaign, easily her best performance in the Ore. And she was terrific up on top of the speed, but only had the 2 jump outs, quick turnaround from the spring. A lot bigger break this time coming, from the Queen Elizabeth, 3 jump outs, and just looks completely up to the mark from what I've seen, Reece. So I can't see a reason why she wouldn't nearly be 95, 100% fit there on Saturday.
She's the type of horse you don't want to be underdone because she obviously does so much in her races. You'll do more damage if you send her in underdone. So, and we can't, you just can't question Kieran Mars. They've got all the technology in the world to know where she's at and how well she's going. Her jump outs have been great, and she's obviously going to try and dominate the race, and she probably will dominate the race. I mean, that's the thing. If you've got her wound up enough first up, a few of these others might not. They're probably not going to be chasing her, and then someone has to chase her at some stage, and who's going to put their hand up to do that? You'd say Gentleman Roy, but, I mean, the boys will still want to, the connections of that horse will still want to win the race too. So everyone's saying Gentleman Roy might be the one to serve it up to her, but why are those owners going to want to cop that, So
he's not a sacrificial lamb.
No, I wouldn't have thought. I wouldn't have thought, because at the end of the day, the boys, as much as they're going to want to win a Group 1 with Mr. Brightside, they're probably, looking over, further and whatnot too. So I'd feel as though she might just get away with being sort of the horse that's actually the most forward out of it, basically. I'm actually going to side with Antino because he's a bomb fresh. He's 4 from 5 fresh. He's 10 from 17 overall. Jamie Carr seems to be getting along with him great. And you know what? She ran second to Pride of Jenni in one of those jump outs and was pulling ground off her. So I'm very much, typical go against the favourite and find something of value. But I do concede that Pride of Jenni is probably going to be the best horse. She's very fit. She's had 3 jump outs. She's going to be on speed. She's going to break them up. And I'm just banking that Antino might get the right drag through and might have last crack.
I know she was beaten by Mr. Brightside when they were first up. It was just first up in the Ore last start. But I feel like that race to me was still a little bit of a changing of the guard with these two horses, particularly as they got deeper into their preparation. And she presented that day off 2 jump outs. She's here off 3 this time in. And that just might be all it needs for her to tick off. And I know they're both 7-year-olds, but I feel like the improvement of her has sort of gone on, while Mr. Brightside, who I think is a champion, has just continued to dish up good performance, but has plateaued. So I'm firmly in the camp of Pride of Jenni here. I think she beats Mr. Brightside. I think she goes straight to the top and she does Pride of Jenni things. And I'm making it a hamburger with a lot. I'm going to back Pride of Jenni, and I'm going to lay Mr. Brightside.
The other little thing to add to that
Coming
ore
hot.
is Buffalo River was also in that race, sort of
Yeah.
chasing her along and probably dragging the rest of the field up. Whereas I'm not sure if there's going to be that horse in between that's going to drag the rest of them up. So she probably is going to get that, pretty easy contested.
That's a really good point as
lead.
well.
Yeah, I'm with her as well, Pride of Jenni. I really like your point that she's still on the way up. Did a little bit of diving into champion mares when they hit their absolute peak.
Tommy never brings bloodstock to the table. This is hot to trot.
What does he bring?
Yeah,
exactly.
Good call.
Shout out to Tommy.
Watching this in Malta.
The real peak of their career, majority of the champion mares, comes between start 25 and start 35, and she's right in that window right now.
She's in the premiership window.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
in the prime.
Yeah, okay.
And I think everything I've seen from her at the jump out says there's no way she's going backwards this campaign.
Not at all.
I think she'll make a statement on Saturday.
Yep, I'm with you, mate. If it wasn't a big enough statement in the Queen Elizabeth, it's going to be another statement first up in the Memsie Stakes. That actually rounds out our Caulfield look so far. We're going to have a look at Rose Hill Gardens as well, because we've got a couple of features at Rose Hill. But before we do that, we've had Kingsley Bartholomew, who was on racing.com on Tuesday with Terry and Hutch, and had a bit of a chat and brought up the importance of Betfair. We know the importance that Betfair has in the exchange dictating the market and how punters can be so price sensitive. Here's how Kingsley Bartholomew uses the Betfair exchange to his advantage.
And the other thing, Terry, probably, and it's along the line of, pricing and being price sensitive. I mean, if you have a horse marked a certain quote, then you've got to trust your judgment like Kingsley.
But a lot of punters think, I'm on the
But that's probably the more important exercise, isn't
yeah.
it? Like going through the process on you say back your judgment, but then putting that onto paper in terms of price.
Well, it does. It just depends how you do it. So at the moment, I don't bet off price, which is something that I think I need to be able to price with the way the market is now. I think being price sensitive is more important than ever, and it's something that I've never been able to master. But I've been working very hard at it the last sort of 2-3 months, and I think I've cottoned on to.
See, that surprises me you say that, because I thought, given your experience and everything, you're still learning as well.
I'm always learning.
On something that, I would say you probably should have been doing before.
Yeah, I'm always learning, and you've got to keep changing as a punter. You're up, you're down, but the market's up and down as well. And things change. I mean, how different it was from the 80s to the 90s to 2000 when Betfair came in to now where corporates are sort of, the market percentage is going. I mean, you need to adapt. And as a professional punter, if you're not adapting to market conditions and also new data coming in, whether it be sectional times or, some new video analysis, if you're not incorporating that new stuff into your model,
Get left behind.
Trav, I found really interesting there from Kingsley how he sort of spoke about he isn't as price sensitive, and we know he's not backwards in sort of coming forward and being out about the types of bets and the amount of bets that the amount of his high stakes. Do you find that interesting? Are you a price sensitive punter?
I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I watched that with Terry, and he made some really interesting comments. But definitely that point there, I'd say it's just the adaptability in the modern age. If you like a horse and you still got a vibe that it's takeable price, I think you just got to be with it. If you're too rigid to say a horse is $2.30 and it gets out to or it goes into $2.50, $2.10, and you don't want to back it. I find I'm probably with Kingsley. That's just the wrong approach. You still probably want to side with that horse because you've put all the work in. You're still confident. I'm probably a bit like him. I don't think you have to be as price sensitive these days because you're not. The hard bit these days is actually finding the right bet.
I was going to say, so you've been a punter and around horses your whole life. Have you really noticed the difference in market percentage when they speak about market percentage being up that 130 sort of plus and then coming down late in SP? Have you noticed just in your results how much that affects you as a punter as well?
Yep, definitely, and especially in the without boring everyone to death, but the wagering landscape has changed a lot in recent time with the taxes for the corporate bookmakers, which then just gets passed on a punter through the upped percentage. So I feel, if you're still comfortable with having that bet, you're better off just taking maybe even slight unders, because the other bit is you need turnover at the end of the day. You can't just be, having a few bets a week. If you want to stay in this long term, you got to turn over money. So to do that, you've got to still be comfortable finding the right horse.
Yep. And the exchange obviously offers so many
exactly.
a great avenue to be able to do that. Boys, let's get stuck into some Sydney racing now. I know Reece Goodwin loves doing his Sydney form. Rosehill Gardens this week. We'll preview the San Domenico and the up-and-coming stakes as well. We'll take a look at race 6, the San Domenico. Libertad won the race last year. SP'd $8, beat home Moravia and Butch Cassidy. This is going to be a fascinating race that we're going to learn a lot about, because we have the returning Storm Boy and then the impressive last start winner of Gatsby's for Chris Waller. And Mayfair's the other Waterhouse spot runner who impressed at the trials, and we probably shouldn't, sleep on either, Trav.
No, and he's probably the likely leader. So Storm Boy from gate 1, I think he'll get held out for the front here by the stablemate, which could make this really interesting, because J-Mac could be on the outside of Storm Boy straight away on Gatsby's, who's got a bit of natural toe. I just thought he was awesome. First up, Gatsby's in the Rosebud. I find it pretty hard to tip against him here. I know he's short, but I think he validated on the back of that first up performance. He's got the race fitness edge over Storm Boy, and I just think he's going to become one of the real dominant forces in the 3-year-old ranks, this guy. And the way the race sets up for him there on Saturday, I'm pretty keen he'll win.
He looks pretty scary, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Gatsby's. He's a real sort of Long Island operator. I'm just picturing how many Leo gifts are going to be going around if he does get the money there on Saturday. What about you, Reece? Do you have an opinion on the race?
I'll have an opinion, because I always do.
That's why you're here.
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes you don't even bother with me.
I try my best.
That's fair enough too. I couldn't possibly back Storm Boy, to be honest, from what I feel like I've seen him come back. He was clearly built different to the other 2-year-olds early in the season. He looked
was a man against boys, wasn't
100%. And don't get me wrong, he probably has improved somewhat, but I would be banking on the others might have improved more. You couldn't go around Gatsby. I didn't feel, as Trav said, he was awesome first up. J-Mac rides him again. I was interested that J-Mac trolled Storm Boy's first trial, and then he was there for his second one, and Adam was already back on. So I'm not convinced about the whole story, but I wouldn't be surprised if J-Mac didn't think the horse was airborne either. So the other point Trav mentioned on is he might not get the top either. So that could make things a little bit awkward with him. He hasn't always been the best to begin. He's drawn 1. He's going to be first in the machines. So we're going to learn a lot. But, yeah, if I had to pick one, it would be Gatsby.
I'm stubborn. So just in case you guys didn't know. And like many, I hitched my wagon to Storm Boy in January after that Magic Millions demolition job. And whilst that rating from that Gold Coast run proved to be an anomaly, or an outlier, I still stuck with him. And I still think he possesses the attributes of a proper Group 1 horse. And I'm going to continue to hitch my wagon to him and put my money where my mouth is. And I'm going to stick with him in this 3-year-old campaign. I think he will get better over further, there's no doubt. So 1100 is not going to be his ideal distance. I'm not convinced, like the talk of the mile, that's going to be it either for him. We're going to learn where it is. I love Adam Hieronymus going back on. I think he suits him. He's a strong front-running rider. We had a bit of a chat about it off air just before the show, Trav. Like, perhaps, he might have been dealt a little bit too cute in some of those rides later in his preparation, where he might just be straightforward, being a Waterhouse bot type as well. Just go straight to the top and do your thing, because that sustained speed was what set him up early in his 2-year-old career. So I'm keen on Storm Boy. I want to stick with him, and to do that, I think you've got to put your money where your mouth is, and I'm going to back him in the San Domenico.
If he doesn't win, and obviously he runs second, is that a pass mark for you?
Yeah. He has
to sort of run 1-2 though.
I think he has to run well.
Yeah.
So you can run 3rd, 4th, and run well.
Yep.
Maybe it might be actually with his type of pattern, maybe not. But I think you'll be wanting to beat home a few of these definitely.
Is there the way I'm asking is there a chance after this run you might jump off him, or are you still keen?
Oh, big chance.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, if you're keen on him, 14, 15, 1600, would you still maybe follow him up again after this?
I think the type of horse he is, we're going to learn a lot on Saturday in terms of his racing pattern. So if he was a genuine back marker, get back, run on, it'd be a different view. But I think just given how we've seen his best rating performances so far, you're probably going to know if to unhitch that wagon or not come race 6 at Rosehill on Saturday.
I just on that, I think if you like Storm Boy, wait. Price wise, I really think you'll
get a better price. I was meant to mention that as well. I
Yeah.
agree. I think we'll get closer to $3 for Storm Boy.
Yeah, I think you get better than that.
Yeah.
I think Gatsby's will start real short. You'll start.
Is that mainly because of that race fitness, basically?
Race fitness,
The
but
data.
also just his last 400 was off the charts. And
Does
there's-
he regress from that possibly because it was such a high sort of rating off his first? Like, is that someone? Did I hear someone speak that could be a trend with Waller sometimes? His
Can
horses are
be,
bomb
but
fresh. And then,
I wouldn't have thought so. 2 weeks between runs. It wasn't a quick run race. It was a raw dash home, and he was just outran his opposition really too fast.
Yep. Let's take a look at race 7 now. It's the Group 3 up-and-coming stakes, 1,300 metres. Tom Kitten gave the field 4.5 to 5 kilos last year and was still too strong, beating Kintyre and NCAP. This year, we've got Autumn Glow. You speak of another one on that day where Gatsby's won impressively. I was really taken by Autumn Glow's win, albeit only at a benchmark 72, Trav.
Can't debut any better than that.
Yeah, it's a pretty fair...
albeit at a benchmark 72, but it was having its first start.
Having its first start.
It was a pretty fair dart. Yeah.
Against a horse that costs 1.6 million, who's out of sunlight, Dawn Service. I reckon goes.
I think you've
all
done
right.
it 200,000 out. I think it was 1.8. I think you've done it an injustice. I think it was closer to 2. Yeah.
This girl herself costs a lot of money, Autumn Glow, and she was unreal that first start. The only little question for me and why I'm not suggesting her as a bet is just if she gets a fair way back. Like, there's obviously going to be bigger fish to fry. I've seen this with Waller plenty of times where they've put down the number and the performance that he goes, yep, you're definitely a Group 1 horse in 3-year-old grade, and there's no doubt to my off that debut she'll win a Group 1. The question mark here, though, is just how far back she's going to get. With a lot of speed on paper, you got this Axios and Wanneroo. They're both fit in form on paces. Rose Hill early in the spring can play very on pace. That would be my only knock, but I'd still think she got the class to overcome it.
Yeah, the speed is the key. You're right. Like Media World, Wanneroo, Axios, even Snack Bar can be forward if there as well, and Shangri-La Express as well from 4. So there is plenty of speed in the race. I loved the win of Autumn Glow. I wasn't potting it. I was trying to actually talk it up because I'm backing Autumn Glow here, boys, by the way, when I prefaced the race. But she was still as green as the grass she was running on us too. But once she got into gear late, it was curtains, and I want to be with that. And I know you guys, you're questioning some Chris Waller tactics here. Like Reece was questioning some shiftiness second up. You were questioning some shiftiness in here as well in terms of getting the figure on the board. I'm backing you in, Uncle Chris. I'm backing you in.
He's going to scratch it now.
Wait for another day.
He's like, this bloke's cotton onto me. I'm scratching it.
You'll find another benchmark 72 somewhere for maybe. So, yes, Autumn Glow for me, shortest way home, but best way home in the up-and-coming stakes. Boys, let's head to the lay streak now. I dominated this segment last week. I laid vs Stina. G'day, guys. Yeah.
Not a great
So
start.
I'm back to 0, which is fair enough, but it was only episode 1, so I don't have too much.
Thank God you can only go back to 0.
Yeah, to climb back. Well, I'm on even playing field with you now because you're first in. So let's talk about our lay streak. So who we want to lay this weekend. Who are you getting beaten, Trav?
I'm against Reece. If Growing Empire is a moral, then I have to lay Stay Focused.
That's money where your mouth is type bet. That's that makes sense. So recommendation is going to be your lay. Stay Focused is going to be your lay bet. And Reece?
Yeah, so I'm going to lay recommendation in the Varley Black Caviar. Obviously, used to be the Heath. For all the points I outlined before, I think we all agreed he was too skinny in the price, and he might get it on the day, but I think Kalos will beat him.
Mr. Brightside is going to be my lay. I tried my hand being the big dog last week in the Group 1. I may as well back it up and go again. But it leads into our best bets because my best bet is Pride of Jenni for the weekend. So if my best bet's Pride of Jenni and we've got 2 runners in sort of the 2s, then I'm willing to make Mr. Brightside my lay. So best of the weekend, Pride of Jenni. Lay streak bet, Mr. Brightside for me. What about you, Trav? Best back.
Yeah, I heard you last week. You were upset with Tommy that he made it best bet, so I'll just stick with one.
Yeah, plural sort of operator.
He loves it.
Yeah.
Race we didn't cover, but race 2, number 12, Caulfield, Craig. Love the name.
I thought it was Craig.
Yeah,
Craig.
It's Craig in America,
Yeah.
and it's Craig in Australia. So I'm glad you went with Craig.
Yeah, definitely Craig, Uncle Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked what he was able to do in his first preparation. Loved that win at Flemington. And then I just think he backed up a bit quick. He was 2 weeks between runs going into the final off a big exertion. Took a bit out of him, I reckon. And that was why he was flat. That's the way I'm seeing it anyway. Had a trial since, went well without being under a lot of pressure, gets a good map on Saturday. I think he's a much better horse than a benchmark 78.
He's around 350 at the moment, Corpse.
I'll take that.
Yeah, take that. What about you, Reece?
Yeah, well, the exact same race as my lay of the day recommendation. We're going hard with
Common
Keller.
theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we labelled it from the start. It was a hamburger with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think he's a great bet. Anything with 4 in front of him, I think it's a great bet. Just having a look here, I got a feeling, yep, that's right. Best Dave Streelaw as well.
Yeah.
Keller. So I'm in good company.
Sultan. There you
I'm
go.
in good company.
I'm going head-to-head with him later. That's terrific. This is the most organised I've seen you too, Reece, and I really want to make sure.
Well, I had 3 months to get organised.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. I opened up the run sheet last night, Trav, which is like Reece doesn't even fill it in. That's why I never throw to him. But it was filled in last night, and I nearly fell off my chair at home. So you've been great. You've set the standard.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
mate.
there's some
This
winners
is the
in there
issue,
as well. And yeah, I'm excited to sit here with you for the rest of the season. Hey, runners over the next few days.
Yeah, we've got a big day or big night tomorrow night, the final Pakenham synthetic meeting at Pakenham. Synthetic, where I do some of my best work.
You do.
So we've got
Rob
5.
Fox would be going around somewhere
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the synthetic
without a doubt.
specialist.
Name another one. Wouldn't have thought.
Super Solar.
Give him the week off.
Really?
He ran last week.
I thought he goes around every 3 days.
Yeah, we
Super
tried
Solar.
to. As we know, they don't make prize money in the box, mate.
Yeah.
But 5 runners tomorrow night, and probably the strongest of them, I would say, Smart Deal. Third up, 1400. Bo Merton's your man in the saddle. I know you got a bit of bromance with Bo,
bro.
so hopefully gets it over the line. So yeah, looking forward to tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's at least one in between those 5.
Love your work. And Trav, you've been outstanding here. You've brought positivity. You've brought some sense to the program.
Brought a lay bin, which
yeah,
I don't.
you bought a lay bin and still tried to be positive because you had a hot date. So
No wonder that ice cream melted.
Yeah, you've been absolutely terrific. I can't wait to follow all of these backs and lays with anticipation over the weekend. And it's great to have some Group 1 racing back in Victoria. Been a lot of fun here on Layback with Betfair. We'll be back next week.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.